Thank you again. Here's we are going to line up game number 3. Shagu come out, win the first one. LGD fire back in LGD fashion. Handily pick up the second one here. And you have to think, 2 blue side games, 2 blue side wins. And what's the common factor? It's Lulu. The big pick we kind of saw coming into the rest of the playoffs.
I mean, honestly, there's nothing else about it. It's the fact that they gave them Lulu, and it's always blue side that seems to get it, so it doesn't feel like it's their priority in terms of banning. But they didn't just give them Lulu in that second game. They gave Imp Kog'Maw again, something they're not showing a lot of respect towards, and then they're giving the Lulu to boot. And that's just too much.
Yeah, and you have to think that Imp must be winning scrims on so many different AD carries right now for him to get Kog'Maw every game. Because it's to the point now where teams are like just resigned to it. They're like, well, he's going to play an AD carry and he's really good at majority of them, so we're not going to throw bans at it. We see the Kalista just because of ridiculous mobility means that it's even more punishing. But Kog'Maw, as far as it goes, great late game damage, but fairly immobile as a carry. That's why they're going with Maokai to try and deal with it. But this time around just did not work.
And so the big question, of course, is always going to be that they're banning mid laners. They're picking on Godv. Do they want to change that to Imp? Because honestly, he's just winning every lane.
I think at this point as well, especially if Lulu becomes this huge priority, why would you ban 2 assassins with Lulu on the map? Like, I can understand the Diana ban because she takes teleport and split pushes. If they're going to pick Lulu, I do not understand the Yasuo ban because that is actually one of the most frustrating matchups in the world because it's not a particle. You just turn into a cupcake the whole time.
Cupcakes can't use spells. It's kind of annoying as Yasuo.
It's really annoying as Yasuo.
Yeah, it's not great. I understand that 100%. And maybe that's where they want to change their bans towards, address the issue that is the AD carries or the Lulu in particular, or leave the Lulu open there on blue side again now, and work towards a team comp around the Lulu themselves.
And we have another series where you feel like a pick that saw a little bit of play in Lulu is going to take over the rest of the series. 2 games, 2 Lulu bans. This is QG all over again with the Nidalee. It has to be addressed at some point. You just can't let it keep going through and winning games for you. Well, you can, but we'll have a 5-game set with a ban in the 5th game probably. So we'll see whether LGD do flex because you feel that their bans are a little bit more flexible right now.
I think QG also picked up, LGD picked up on the Lulu factor a little bit earlier than IG did in their last best of 5, so might not have a Nidalee situation like we did in the semi-final here, but I mean, look, if that's how it's going to be, QG at least get 3 games on blue side, so you never know. Maybe that's why they like to play up to 5 games, like, you know what, we just need the blue side, give it to me.
Could be where the gauntlet's raised, of course. It's like, we've got blue side, if we don't ban Lulu every time, they'll have to ban it eventually. Yeah. Maybe that could be the big turning point. But unlikely, it's something that should be addressed immediately, not at game 5, because then you're making the risk of going to 5 games. There's a few things that should be addressed. I think Lulu's number 1, though.
Yeah, I agree. And the second thing that I want to talk about is the fact that they left Elise up this time and Swift didn't take it. And you saw how crazy the early game was, like completely nuts. Yep. He was on a little bit more of an early game focused jungler and can walk into TBQ's jungle because all you have to do is get eyes on TBQ and you can neutralize him very easily. He follows his mid laner around most of the time as well. You saw the first gank, even though he didn't get an assist, second one went top lane with the Lulu was sped up underneath the turret. So I think that Elise is something that Swift can use to really keep tabs on the Lee Sin, and it's a very frustrating matchup for the Lee Sin player, especially when those spiderlings keep following around.
Or even the Lee Sin himself. Something that he should consider doing is matching the early aggression, and though they've got a lot of peel, they've got the team comp that they're looking for to let LGD come to them, you can't lose laning phase with it. So early aggression's a necessity from Swift.
Yeah, and we've seen it so many times from Swift. He is a good early game jungler when he wants to be. You can see that they're trying to go for the big team fights. They had triple disengage this time. Azir, Gragas, and the Janna. But when you're fighting skirmishes all over the map, I mean, that replay was brilliant because it showed Acorn bottom lane, 3 members top lane, the 1v1 mid. They just never synergize because they're all over the place with the ultimates.
And that's the nice thing, I guess, I like about the way LGD played that game. Obviously, you know, drafted very well, got some good picks in, were able to snowball the early game and do LGD things and have Imp and company take over. We're going to watch a couple of highlights now, though, and see LGD, just how well they navigated
this. This is the Fiora ultimate, and, you know, we touched on it early game, but look how low TBQ is. Look how low PYL is. Fiora ultimate goes down. Everyone back to full health. No problem.
Trumps the Janna pick almost entirely. Is you have a Janna, well, I have a Fiora ultimate now, and just pick the target that is going to die. Because Fiora, kind of a big deal. Just leave them with the ultimate and disappear and kill everyone elsewhere. Yep. Godv actually sniped V here as well.
Nice. Just, again, chasing the poor AD carry. And TNT had a much worse time of this game. As we're going to see Acorn do it all again.
This is just like highlight worthy in and of the fact that
It's so
he's
great.
just not getting kills, but he's so manly.
Wild growth there as well. And that was what I was trying to say, sorry, is that Acorn also being able to present a carry threat throws even more problems into Xiaogu's drafting.
I think, yeah, it comes down to Xiaogu playing very much like a one carry style. They picked the Sivir this time with the Azir, so Doinby was the big carry, whereas in the first game it was the other way around with the Vayne. But as you can see, Doinby is the first to go down every time, and this is to the 3 threats that LGD have.
And as well as Imp is playing from these highlights, I think we're going to see an Acorn.
Yeah, I think so too. I was thinking that exact thing. I'm watching all this. I'm like, I think I know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, look, he had a great game. It was a lot of fun, certainly.
I wouldn't mind if they gave it to TBQ. I know scoreline would probably reflect it, but TBQ played out of his mind in that game.
Yeah, and especially the last team fight that we didn't get to see. He went in by himself and got the Azir ultimate and only the Lee Sin. If you can get that every single time, that's only going to mean good things for your team.
Yeah, definitely. It was TBQ stepped up, but so did everyone as well. They're winning laning phase, and something that Xiaogu probably want to address is laning phase.
Well, we mentioned this, the fact that LGD are really strong mechanically. Like, the fact that we call them the chess masters and complement their macro play so extensively does not take away from the fact that they've got some really good, strong individual players that play well as a team. And I think that's their bottom lane personifies them very well. They've got aggression. They've got a very good follow-up support player in PYL. And he roams around the map really well. So have to see how QG try and handle that, because arguably they'd look better in a lane swap. So maybe QG initiate a lane swap.
And that's weird, because that's not how this is supposed to work. LGD is supposed to be the team that are so strong at getting Imp up in the lane swap, but even just 2v2, ImpYL seems more than content to take it to TNT and TCT. We said it at the start of the series. If you're going to beat LGD, you have to contain Imp.
This is the worrying thing again, is that it feels like the bot lane of Xiaogu just aren't matching the caliber of LGD's Imp YL bot lane, as it has been so aptly described as. They're just carrying. They're straight up winning their lane by 70 CS, even in losing games. And then in winning games, it's just kills as well.
And you can see the formula. Like, get the Maokai, get the front line, jump on Imp and lock him down. That's what happened in game 1, but they fell too far behind to enact that plan in this one.
Yeah, 100%. And maybe they go towards a lane bully combo. I would have really liked to see the Lucian that game, especially with the amount of PL he had, because Lucian's biggest thing is that he has to be a little bit aggressive because he has 500 range and maybe less at the moment. I don't know. It seems really short when I play him anyway.
550, I think.
Yeah, I think it's 525 at the moment. So yeah,
it's in there.
It's in that ballpark. So, but if you got triple disengagement tools, that's probably the one time you can play Lucian very comfortably, and he can trade well with a Cogmore at the start of the game. So
and the Vayne was banned as well, so there's not many other options to default to if you're looking to be a low range carry that TNT seems to love so much.
Especially not against the Braum, because like generally you'd be like, just play the Corki, but against Braum it's just such a negating factor trying to take a Corki into that lane. So understand why you went with the Sivir, especially once again with Maokai. That's their answer. It's not even, they don't want to play 2v2 lane, they just want to neutralize it and then just speed up a Maokai and let him deal with him. But that game it didn't work.
Yeah. Just too far behind, honestly, here. And I like that you hit on supports, because we talk about these two players, and Braum, Janna will probably the big picks coming into this series. We've had 2 games already, and what's the support that's winning? It's Braum once again.
Yeah, it just seems to be the LPL special in terms of support champions, and they don't need a Janna, they have a Fiora. So, you know, the trade-off's always going to be there. Just have both, essentially, in terms of their
That would be
strengths.
horrifying. Can you imagine?
No, I don't want to imagine.
No, I don't either.
That would be horrifying. That's a lot of heal.
Yeah, and the one thing I do want to point out is that Janna trades really well. Braum makes you trade with Braum. Like, so there's just a completely different playstyle out there. They're trying to throw the shield onto the AD carry and make them trade and get all those good things. With the long range of a Cogmore, Braum just stands in front of you, and all of a sudden, if you're Sivir, it's, I hit the support who starts with 4 health potions in the case of Braum, or I don't hit anyone because of the way that PYL was playing that lane. So you can understand exactly where the frustration is from. And that's why right now LPL teams seem to favor the Braum. He's got great disengage in his ultimate. He's got one of the best passives for a support in the game in that Winter's Bite cold thing that stuns you every forward auto attack. It's fantastic.
It is.
And honestly, his mobility with things like Lee Sin and the stand behind me is really far underrated. Like, the ability to jump on a creep and point blank people is just something that you don't necessarily get to see out of a support player, and he does the forward and backward thing. And as soon as you get a champion that is good at going forward, good at going backwards, they're generally outside of a meta anyway.
And we've seen that. I mean, even in game 1, had the little springboard. We had TCT jumping on his buddy TNT to get around. Like, Braum's been a big factor to me, and that's with Yasuo getting banned. Like, the double wall comp's been massive in playoffs here as well. So maybe, honestly, both walls are too good. Take them away here. Have to expect we do have at least 2 more games to play. Going to see a lot of changes between these two teams as they continue drafting against each other.
But of course, take away the second wall. You're leaving open either a Yasuo, Diana, or Kalista. And that's against LGD, the side that you don't want to give those two whatsoever. So being first pick this side, Xiaogu, they should prioritize the Braum, I would say. Most likely over that of anything else. Maybe the Maokai because it shows a lot of success. Lulu, kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
I agree. But Braum's just this overwhelming factor. And keeping in mind, they'll have to go Lulu because the second or the first rotation of the red side would be both Lulu, Kog'Maw.
Yeah.
Yeah, people don't do that thing anymore where they take Lulu and try and trick you into giving them Kog'Maw. That used to be what they did when they assembled that comp.
Yeah.
People just realized that Kog'Maw was so good, they're like, we're just taking it.
It's also just better than Jinx as well, which is generally the fallback option in that hyper-scaling protect the carry combo. Kog just does so much more.
Yeah, the danger is if you take the Kog'Maw instead of the Lulu, that they just go like Braum Twitch.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then they get both of them at the same time and they're able to lane swap and just go berserk. And you see this time around, LGD, what I was going to point out last game was the lack of buildings that they took. They only took 2. This time they got 7.
And the one who took 2 was in fact Xiaogu, as Imp does pick up MVP with his Kog'Maw. It's not the Acorn Fiora.
Thank goodness.
Really. Did you not watch the same game as me?
I did. I saw him get first blood, man.
I mean, Imp's aggression, both in a 1v1, in the 2v2, pretty much wherever he goes, has been absolutely awesome to watch here. And Imp Cam should be quite a sight here.
They skipped the first blood. Sad day.
It's okay. We still get to see Imp make all of his buttons in an effective
so
manner.
fast. And again, just standing happily in position. The rest of his team's following in. And he's just dishing out damage. He gets thrown back into the Fiora ulti. That's a bit awkward.
The way that Imp's positioning right now is he just hits the closest person. It doesn't even matter who it is because they're going to die. And that's just so easy to do because this is the team comp that they have actually devised almost entirely around him. It's just so strong.
And I think that's the most brutal thing about Kog'Maw is that once he gets ahead, as soon as he hits his W, you just can't do anything. You have to run away. And an AD carry that carries that much threat when they're ahead is just like...
Well, the dangerous thing about Kog'Maw is that he comes with Lulu, and you can't itemize against him because he does half magic damage. Like, statistically, late game Kog'Maw, like very late game Kog'Maw with crit and everything is like 60-40 because the help picks just obliterate you if you have any form of attack speed. So it's just so hard to itemize. In fact, most people go Spirit Visage top lane if you're against a Kog'Maw just because at that point of the game, when he's only on Trinity Force, he does arguably more magic damage with his first auto attack. So it's a lose-lose situation against the guy.
And in that respect, it's also just ridiculous to try and itemize against in terms of like if they actually put a lane swap into effect as an example, usually don't get as much money to actually itemize it all. So you're just sitting there and letting this Kog'Maw freely farm.
Well, that's what we said. As long as Imp has Kog, V needs to be in a 1v1 matchup because if he does not get Frozen Heart Spirit Visage, he just can't go anywhere near the Void Puppy because he just spews out like sick damage.
Yeah,
literally sick damage there. I mean, and that was the problem. They got the Maokai, they got standard lanes, but Acorn's there with the Fiora counter pick of all things. Just ready in the top lane, ready to go. And then all of a sudden, the strategy that Xiaogu showed in game 1 is just gone.
Yeah, and you know, when you look at the Western scene, Vizicachi was the first person to do this, but people like Flyndre have done this a lot in the LSPL going into the LPL, is Maokai doesn't hard lose many lanes, but he doesn't win many lanes in his own right, which means you can play sick things like split push, Trinity Force, Static Shiv, LeBlanc's into it, and just take over games. Chachi used to do the Poppy, where he'd just run Poppy into Maokai all the time and be like, well, you can't deny me farm. Now I'm going to one-shot your AD carry. So this is exactly what happened, you know. Early pick Maokai, and they're like, free lane. Like, what do you want to play up there? You want, like, I don't know.
Not this time.
Do you want Fiora? We'll give you that.
Yeah, you've got the control mage mid to boot, and you know that your bottom lane's going to win. So Acorn, honestly, in this series, completely unlocked to play whatever he would like. And they try and lane swap against it. Perhaps Xiaogu might want to do that to prevent the counter swap. They don't want to be up against 3 threats. 2's hard enough for them to execute against. So putting the lane swap into effect doesn't favor Xiaogu, just prevents the issue. And this is the thing. If they want standard lanes, then sacrificing themselves to lose in slow motion.
Yeah, at this point, you think maybe Dragon, early Dragons, try and force 5v5 team fights, keep the lanes as even as possible, try and deny backs. One thing that Xiaogu did really well first game was when they lost the team fight, they still denied the back so that they won the one straight after it, because they actually came back with more items after that. They got a free shot while their screen was great. So we'll see whether they can strategically make the little plays that catch LGD off guard, because you feel like that immediate Baron call is what caught LGD off guard that game.
I think so too. They've been playing quite smart. Like, you're not LGD level. You're probably going to take a lot of time to get that refined, and that's a big mark for PYL about how good he is and what he brings to a team. But Xiaogu have made a lot of strong decisions. And again, when Swift's able to do what he wants to do, Doinby's going to neutralize the lane, especially if TNT gets gold. But even if he doesn't, just having someone like V get his item so he can tank all of this damage from Imp, it's the little things that really add up in this sort of game. And we've seen both teams play their game plan. They've each won a game apiece here. We're going to move into game 3. And as always, draft will be important, but both teams must feel confident now that we can beat you.
Oh, 100%, especially Doinby arguably won his lane.
Yeah.
I recognize the fact that Lulu went top and got an assist for the team, and that is about 15 CS because you miss roughly 2 waves. But to be up like 25 CS on a Lulu as an Azir matchup, especially when you're getting denied blue buffs, is really credit to Doinby. He played the laning phase at least really well.
And you touched on not getting blue buffs. And this comes back to what you said, though, is that Xiaogu plays best when they have got an unlocked jungler, when they're actually able to let Swift work around the map, when the mid laner Doinby can follow Swift around the map. This is how Xiaogu actually wins the game. But they're so far from that stage, if Godvi can even keep Doinby down, opposed to the other way around, bot lane is naturally winning. And that's an area where there's resources just pumped into them. This side, they do put a lot of effort into TNT, but if he's losing naturally, he's never going to be able to go off, get those items. So then they start to switch the resources more to V. And he can carry, but it's not to the extent that Swift will across the entire map.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing about Swift right now is that bottom lane's losing in a way that he can't gank it. Because it's always shoved up and teleport's readily available because top side of the map has no pressure. That if you try and gank bottom lane, you fight a 3v3 with all the creeps in your favor. And the already behind Sivir has to run through 6 ranged creeps and just gets obliterated before she's even in the fight. So he's in a hard decision, which is why I think trying to find TBQ at the start of the game is just the right move. Try and keep TBQ down. Make it so all of a sudden pushing up in lanes has the inherent threat of you have to leave the lane and then you lose a lot of free CS and experience while you're doing that, especially if people start freezing you out and things like that. So if he's able to get an aggressive jungle, Elise in Elise, even go back to something like Nidalee if they leave it open and try and bully TBQ around, will set Swift up for a little bit more success. He's playing well in the team fighting phase. We just want something out of him in the early game.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. They have to get there safely, mostly intact, and not too far behind. Xiaogu are a team that can win at a deficit, but just don't make it that hard for yourself. They already did it in game 1. They fell behind, found the team fight with some crazy Lulu teleports, and were able to win enough skirmishes where they could come out ahead. QG know what the game plan is for themselves here. I think it's just LGD at a lot of little levels are just better at a lot more than you are. So it's a matter of really fighting to your strengths, figuring out what they are. And honestly, I think play 2 threats. One threat was really cute in game 1, given the comp that you built. But I think if you're worried that your bottom lane's going to fall behind and Doinby can't hard carry because he's not going to smash Godvi in a lane, I think give them both a carry, maybe even look to the top, possibly jungle as well. We've seen Nocturne out of Swift before. That could be something they could consider. There are options here for these teams, but I think after seeing 2 games, even in the game 1 they won, I didn't like them only playing a single threat.
Yeah, I mean, definitely you could diversify, get an extra threat in there and actually have a very strong late game type of phase where you are strong as a team. But we've mentioned Xiaogu are good at playing from behind. If you're ever behind against LGD, no one's good against playing from behind against LGD. That's the problem here, is that maybe you run 2 threats, but then you're also sacrificing your early game to try and get to late game. And if you are behind, you're done. And
Nocturne is something that you pointed out, and I think that right now you just do it a little bit better than Elise because she gets on the back line as well and actually has some magic damage. The way he used to run Nocturne was the fact that that was the most famous Nocturne game he had this season was when he made Def lose on Jinx. So just be able to dive in there with your top laner, just completely smash the AD carry with Nocturne. Run something like a Janna to disengage the fight afterwards. So you use everything, get in, kill one member, disengage, and then go again. Problem is, is you're giving up until level 6 on Nocturne, which is like 7.5, 8 minutes into the game. You give up 8 minutes of a map against LGD. You saw what happened game 1, especially if there's a Lee Sin running around the map. You just might not have a chance to get to 25 minutes after that.
Yeah, completely agree.
It's tough. I mean,
yeah.
That's the thing about
There's
this matchup.
no easy answer against LGD.
There shouldn't be an easy answer against LGD. That's how good of a team they are. But just someone has to slow down Imp. It's ridiculous how well he's playing. I don't think I've seen him play a bad game in about 10. All playoffs long, Imp has looked absolutely insane. Like, he's not just getting a little bit ahead or carrying games in the mid game. Like, he's actually just smashing people's faces in.
I guess it gets me that we're sitting here trying to think of what Xiaogu can do to win the game when they've already won a game against them. Yeah. It's just that LGD found their form and suddenly they look unbeatable yet again. But there are ways to do it. It's just that Xiaogu seem to, stylistically as a team, almost feel outmatched.
Yeah, well, and that's why I want to go back towards earlier fights. And, like, I think that you can pick them around drag and maybe invade second red or second blue as it comes up at the 7-minute mark, go a little bit of an earlier game comp. Because, once again, like, QG's strength over LGD is if they find each other at even footing, which they should be at around 7 to 10 minutes into the game, they're just able to start winning team fights. That's what we saw game 1. So you have to strategically pick parts of the map. So go with jungler like Elise, grab an early Sightstone, get just your jungle item upgraded, not into something like a Runeglaive or a Cinderhulk. Ward up an area of the map and then continually pick fights. Drag them out of lanes. We've already said LGD are a great laning team, so don't fight them in the lanes. Like, there are ways to pick fights around other parts of the map, which can definitely happen. I mean, you saw them fight over a Scuttle Crab early in that game, and the collapse nearly came through and worked out. They can definitely do things to win.
Not to mention Xiaogu are best when they're not laning, so there's a lot of factors that they need to consider coming into this next game. And the less that they can lane, the better. Yeah,
a team that was really good at actually doing this was OMG. OMG used to drag you out of lanes and around the map earlier than any team. They were like Moscow 5-esque with how they used to do it. And they honestly, if they even started to show signs of losing lanes, they'll just group up as 5 and just fight you in a lane. Like, send 5 members top. Okay, we might give up a turret, but they would never blink. They would just push until you responded to them in some way. So I think that there are still things that Xiaogu can do to win this series. This series at 1-1 is not over by a long shot.
And I guess that's the other thing, is that it is now even. We're going into game 3 at a very high level, take a big step back. How important is this game compared to the rest of the series? Because arguably, game 3 is the most important when you take a split like this.
I think this game is important to see if there is adaptation. So both teams have won once. We've seen small changes from LGD in terms of their banning phase, things they're going to implement and put in place. But this game, to me, is the most important to see how Xiaogu now respond after losing, to see if they can then adapt themselves and actually find strength again, because they've been exploited now, and it's up to them to cover their weaknesses.
Yeah, I think this game is important because Xiaogu is such a good blue side team that if they win 3 times on the blue side, they win this set.
Yep.
Whereas if this game goes over to LGD, they've broken that, and all of a sudden QG have to win on the red side of the map. And they've struggled even during the regular season to do that, let alone playoffs. So once again, if they lose on blue right now, I think that this series becomes very hard.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. We saw it obviously in the IG series where they won game 2. They went 2-0 up, mostly on the back of Swift's in Italy. So they did win on red. Yeah, talked about blue and red side a lot. Going to be an important game here for Xiaogu, but the coaches are back behind their teams, looking very handsome. But I think that means we are going to have champ select coming up relatively soon. It's been quite a long break. Thank you all for sticking out with us. But whatever's gone wrong, they've presumably fixed, fingers crossed, and these teams have had a lot of time to prepare for this third game.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's probably just a little bit more time requested from Xiaogu to make sure that they're prepared to step on the Rift here.
Just double checking, were they allowed to play Fiora? The answer, of course, is yes.
Yeah.
Ready to go. Push-ups have been done. They're all calm and collected. This pick and ban phase is arguably the most important part of this entire series right now.
Yeah, it feels like LGD have won 2 drafts. Game 1 is a bit here and there. Xiaogu put together a good comp, but LGD might have won the draft even then. So coming into Game 3, teams have had a lot of time to think about it. Game 3 is real important as far as momentum goes. Xiaogu do not often lose on the blue side, but if they are, it's going to be now. And we're going to start things off exactly the same way we've started the last few. Diana and Yasuo there for Xiaogu as LGD banned 2 junglers once more on red side, Nidalee and Elise.
LGD banning the Elise, though.
On red side only, apparently.
Well, they don't even really need to ban it if Swift's preferring Gragas over Elise, and then the Lulu's also going to be a first pick priority. So if they give them the first pick option of Elise, and they go for the Lulu, or vice versa, they'll still get a really strong first pick themselves.
I think QG have to ban Kalista here as well, which is awkward because they're sort of like, well, we're going to stick to our God V bans. They kind of already know what we're doing here because I don't know if they want to take Kalista over Lulu, but it's so dangerous to give LGD Gaming either of those picks.
Very risky right now. LGD, 13 seconds to choose what they want to ban. Do they want to get rid of the Lulu?
I don't know.
They do.
I think they do as well.
They should.
I'd like to see it just. It's if they're up and if it's 2-1 up, by the way, I think they 100% ban it. They actually banned Vayne as the last pick there from LGD. So the QG just take it. Oh, Victor's open. That's what the extra jungle ban added.
Yeah.
But I don't even know if he's better than Lulu in this series.
It is for Doinb.
Yeah.
It just straight up, it just is for Doinb on Victor. You want to give him that champion. Most comfortable. Take it away from Godv as well, first and foremost.
Godv ignored it last time around, so
It was banned.
it was banned.
Yeah.
Second game.
Sure, he would have played it if it wasn't.
Yeah.
I think it was banned. Because he played Azir, but I'm sure he plays Victor if that's open. I mean,
I think this is risky. I honestly
agree.
think you take Lulu over it, even if you are Doinb. Right now, he's a great Victor player, don't get me wrong, but you are 100% giving up Lulu Cog first 2 picks against LGD, and as much as Victor excels at deleting a member of an enemy team.
a little harder when Lulu's on the team.
Yeah.
You can see Xiaogu are taking their time with the pick. 5 seconds left, and they will lock in the Lulu.
I think the reason as well is that Doinb is the only Lulu player of the team.
Yep.
So they know it's going to be mid lane, whereas LGD can very easily flex pick that because it can go mid or top.
Yeah.
Probably support as well.
But that was
Not
good.
sure TCT want to dust it off, but yeah. Gragas taken away from Swift, and Cogmore once again for him.
Well, yeah, LGD respect the Lulu Cog so much. They're happy to second rotate it. They're not going to give it up, so we'll see how it works out.
Ooh, I like this. I mean, I like that they're even posturing. They do it.
They can.
Braum and Victor, the next 2 picks.
Ryze is available. Acorn plays Ryze into Lulu really well.
He also plays Fiora
I'm ready for the
to
Fiora.
everything.
Ryze into Lulu is a really good lane matchup for the Ryze.
It is. It definitely is. Lulu's a very low impact, more wave clear centric laner, so Ryze can very easily scale, do well in laning phase in a direct 1 versus 1 anyway. And this adaptation though from Xiaogu, super interesting. In terms of how they drafted, it made a lot of sense. You always expect them to pick mid, support, top in whatever order they think is priority. But it's just, yeah, like they did pick the Lulu to take it away.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to. We've seen, again, what Lulu Cog's going to do. No one's banning Cogmore just yet, even though we have Kalista banned by Xiaogu on the blue side. Like, there are so many considerations here, given how strong Imp is as a player.
Oh, wow, they went with it.
They know they have to mix it up. There's the Fiora again, and looks like Alistar for PYL once more.
He's listening.
Godby knows. He's
It's
like,
not that
don't worry,
funny.
guys, I got this as
It
well.
won the game.
It did.
It's
It won
great.
the game. This is happiness right now.
And a little bit of confusion from Spawn's face.
Well,
I mean,
no, the thing is, we thought it was strong. We legitimately had the conversation 40 minutes before the game. We thought it was strong.
Yeah.
There's a very big difference between, as a color caster, thinking something is strong and seeing it in back-to-back games of the LPL.
well, we'll see if
Just
Acorn
take
can
a
do it
second
again.
here.
I assume that's
Acorn
his pick.
summon a spell.
Yeah, I saw them. He's got teleport exhaust because he's
Oh,
manly.
wow.
I mean, it's not quite
So
Maokai,
manly.
but I feel like you will get a decent amount of farm against Lulu. It could be tricky in the early stages.
Yeah, I guess it's the Maokai logic as well, as you can play a carry into a low impact style of laner. The difference is Lulu's ranged and has picks, So early damage is actually still very high.
Well, the thing about Lulu is that she's a lane bully with Ignite because she actually has really telegraphed.
Oh my god.
Wow.
Rek'Sai, Ashe are the last 2 picks. The Freyord bottom lane. It's getting real frosty.
So Lulu has really telegraphed damage. You know how much damage she's going to do per auto attack, things like that, so you can navigate the lane fairly easily. Wow, this is throwby from
This
QG.
draft is great.
They've gone for the hard engage.
Yeah,
They had a
super
Lulu
hard
top
engage.
lane. Their jungler that they picked at the same rotation was Rek'Sai, is not guaranteed engage. Usually has to flash to make sure that that's secured. But if someone's hit by an enchanted crystal arrow, they're secured. So
Yeah, especially when you look at the layered CC that's going to come in afterwards. You've got the Braum that's going to use the ulti straight away, as well as a gravity field after that. You think that that is a good 5 seconds of CC that will be able to pick someone like Acorn's Fiora, unless he's able to get a great riposte and send an arrow back.
Oh, we can really see some plays here. But Cassidy has been the last pick. Godby will take it into the Victor matchup. Been relatively popular in the LPL.
Godby did this.
Yeah.
This is his matchup. He loves Cassidy so much. He was a man that popularized the Roa into Athene's Unholy Grail, into Zonya's Hourglass, and just have all the mana in the world, Cassidy. And there is a couple of magic-dealing threats right now. The only person he really needs to worry about is TNT towards the late game.
And that's something that worries me here for Xiaogu, because they've gone for an Ashe into a riposte, into a Cassidy, which is near impossible to connect with, a Cleanse Kog'Maw, and an Alistar who has
I
the
love that
ultimate.
from him.
Yeah,
And he'll just build Mikhail's.
yeah, he's going to catch it.
Yeah.
Flash into it.
Yeah, no, legitimately. PYL will catch a majority of arrows unless they're really on point out of TNT here. It's the Olaf theory, man. Just walk at the front.
By early Elixir of Iron, block it away.
Than Fiora too, just quietly.
No.
Well, it is Fiora this time instead. Acorn's going to run it back this time against V's Lulu. So a bit of a surprise pick out there from the top laner.
Which one? V? We know Acorn plays Fiora.
And then Swift on the Rek'Sai up against the Gragas here from TVQ. They're going to swap roles around. Doinby, though, back on Victor. A big champion for him, but a big one as well for Godby on Cassidy.
Yeah, so they pick the high damage mid laners, of course. Any wall is not safe now for LGD as we move towards our marksman.
That bottom lane, Ashe versus Kog'Maw, as Xiaogu coming up with more creative answers to the Cog. But Braum is on TCT side. PWL is going to go back to Alistar.
And important to note that new Ashe is actually quite a lane bully. The Q does so much damage, and you're going to have to trade with the Braum one more time. So maybe this time QG can put a little bit more pressure out.
Stroke of genius, perhaps here from Xiaogu.
I think it forces the lane swap, though, from LGD. So we'll see what they actually want to.
Well, we certainly will. So we're going to find out and getting ourselves in a game number 3. And here we are as we move out into game number 3 of our grand final. Xiaogu on the blue side here for the third one. LGD over on the red. We've split the first 2 games. That Fiora certainly had something to do with game number 2.
They're going to camp it out. So smart. Just has so much impact. Send 5 members top.
Yep. And you can even tell they're trying to make sure that they get good advantage here into the brush. Good dash out from Acorn. Going to get himself out safely.
Yeah, luckily has the Q now is a different Fiora to the old one, so can dash to safety. The kill potential at level 1 from Xiaogu is not that high. The Ashe, and like if it was a direct 5 versus 5 though, they would 100% win because their damage is just ridiculous. In saying that, LGD are just going to be very fanned out. They're going to split, they're just going to get knowledge. They only got knowledge of where they were though.
Correct. Godby eats a Q.
Got given the chair. Referee wasn't looking.
Nope, definitely
now we
wasn't.
can't recall either.
But I mean, we've seen neutral
He's gonna be a
starts.
little bit late.
Does he get an extra potion though? Yeah.
He has to.
Extra potion now. There it is.
He's got it. I mean, lane can be a bit tricky. Doinby has gone for Ignite there as well, so a bit more kill potential. Swift might look a little more aggressive. It's not quite Elise in Elise, but can get things done early on the Rek'Sai.
As him pings out his Krogs, he's like, hey, PYL, where are you?
Well, he's waiting for the delivery service. Going to start them up here, and PYL going to help him out, which means we do have another lane swap here. Again, Xiaogu on blue side. They'll take 2v0 right now into the bottom lane, and Imp's going to get more free time as Kog'Maw.
Yeah, I think it was fairly telegraphed again by actually having the champions that they do. The second Ashe was locked in, the second Imp went for Cleanse. Yeah, they didn't want to be a part of that.
Certainly did not, as TVQ hits level 2. Going to get a bit of help there from Akon. You mentioned it in Game 2 Spawn, but Fiora's jungle follow actually pretty good.
Yeah, she just has really good attack speed out of the E, and because the cooldown lasts for a couple of auto attacks, you get to use it once every camp. So it's, don't get me wrong, it's not the best. I'm not going to say it's like Shyvana level where she flies you through the jungle on a magic carpet and then delivers you like level 4.
Yeah.
But it's not bad.
Certainly not here, as Doimby back on his big signature pick here with the Victor. He's seen a lot of games on it and a lot of success here as well. But LGD going through their jungle. Good hawk shot from all the way down the bottom lane. It's going to give them some nice vision. And now V's level 2 going to roam into the top side, try and get that farm out away from Kog'Maw.
I guess the big question mark now, though, is that they're actually not getting farm onto the Fiora. A champion that likes to build damage, likes to has items.
Yeah.
Lulu's always going to be relevant, has got wild growth, can shield people and still be youthful.
And has a blue buff. Like, we pointed it out, Rek'Sai doesn't really need that as she jungles around, beg your pardon. But will definitely help out the Lulu pickup in the top lane.
Doimby's booking it. He knows that the gank's coming. Does see some good vision here, as they might even line up a tower dive onto V.
Yeah, there's 2 wards though, so really nice early vision control, and you can see Swift making the call to come up.
TCT's here as well, so it's 2v4 right now. Could be 3v4 soon. The turret's going to help tip those scales, and looks like just a push now instead. Swift does spot them. It's going to force them away. And all the free time goes to this Ashe. Imp at least getting slightly disrupted here.
Yeah, I mean, Ashe is still getting that free time you mentioned. Lulu's actually very comfortable now that Braum made his way up. The second TCT hit too, they knew to respect that a lot more. Very difficult to dive a Lulu and a Braum, and Swift was making his way up very, very promptly.
And Akon's going to come bottom lane. Level 2 versus level 4. Good struggle there up against the Ashe. TNT's done a nice job keeping that wave nice and close to his turret. Those hawk shots.
I like that Fiora teleported and then just did the scuttle crab as well. It's, didn't even do it, just watched.
The hawk shot, man. It knew. It had all the vision. TNT is onto something. We'll see how it pans out.
Like, Akon teleporting is just risky. It's just plain risky because you now know that you're up against a lane where there's pretty much no chance of you fighting successfully.
Oh, and the Braum's behind as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I got the ward though.
Nice little reset there from the E. Bit of harass out there into TCT. But other than that, it's been pretty quiet here. And again, in a lane swap situation, Xiaogu looking nice here. Swift even starting to get a bit more aggressive, considering a tower dive here onto Godby.
Yeah, so the benefit right now is the fact that you've got a cleanse Kog'Maw. Free laning phase, like, not being disrupted.
Oh, they're going in. Swift looking for the knockup. Godby's going to flush himself out. Swift will follow. Gets the unborrowed. Damage is good, and first blood goes to Rek'Sai.
And that was just very smart decision-making here from this Xiaogu side. They're seemingly excelling in these lane swap environments that they're being placed into here. Doinby actually doing very well in this mid lane 1 versus 1. There is an ignite for the Kassadin as well, so doesn't have any defensive summoners to get out, but the dive was just so seamlessly executed by Xiaogu. They look really good.
And that's Swift for me when I've seen him play, especially early on in the season. The aggression and how intelligently he ganked people was really a trademark of his play. It's nice to see that come out here in Game 3.
Definitely. And speaking of...
Yeah, going back in. Akon now in trouble. Dashes out to safety. No, not safe enough. Gonna get stunned up here as well. Good riposte. I think just dodged the stun.
That was really cool, though.
That was cool.
Not only did he predict the Braum stun and use the riposte, Xiaogu actually stopped autoing him, so nothing happened from it. But it was double mind games, and nothing came from that.
Well, Akon actually going to get himself to safety and see a bit of fun here as TBQ and PYL.
It's not going to hit the turret. They can shove someone under if they go right now.
Going back in again.
No.
LGD have to come in now. Good hawk shot, does spot out the Gragas, but gets a ward down, has to back off. Akon's going to get himself some farm. Probably more importantly, finally catch up in experience.
6. TNT has the arrow ready to go. This is dangerous territory for LGD right now. But Swift has already made his way out of this area. And they're just going to try and actually get experience and farm onto Akon, honestly, because he's the one who really needs some.
As I said, Q-Max Ashe, if that is what TNT is going for. No, he's going W.
Wave clear. Harass. I don't know, it all does the same thing, really. It's just a matter of preference when it comes down to what you max.
The under the turret harassment of Q, however, is just so good.
Ooh, Swift here again. Doinby puts down the ulti, gets the stun there as well. Knockup's good. Godby's going to get taken out again.
That was a silver platter
That was
right
so
there
smart.
from Doinby. Actually gets the stun to connect, puts down the ultimate. Swift can just meander his way in. Just get the knockup, and there's the second kill for him.
What's Godby going to do? He'd already used his flash. He used his ult to get aggressive.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was a questionable decision to riff walk onto the...
Ooh, Acorn. Trouble? Not quite. Gonna dodge out the stun there, but TNT having a good lane for the first time, I think. Keeping up with Imp on CS, who's actually not having the best time. V is running away with the top lane matchup comparatively.
Yeah, if you compare the top laners, of course, doing so well in this lane, not ahead in compared to his lane opponent, which is Imp at the moment, but the Fiora has done nothing, is really struggling to get a single thing done. And this is Ashe being that big lane bully.
Ooh, good hook shot again. I think TCT might have smelled what was happening, was trying to line up the dive, but he'll just keep doing damage to the tower. Acorn will do what he can, but Swift's going to come back in. He's hit level 6. He's got his Cinderhulk. Early power certainly in Xiaogu's court here.
It looks like the Dragon and Blue buff are going to be the next plans of attack here from Xiaogu. They want to make Kassadin's life miserable. Not only have they banned him out, they're now focusing him. And Doinby's got that Victor, so...
And as we said, there's ways to make LGD fight you outside of laning phase. Invading blue buff, especially against Kassadin, is one of those ways. Godby's response to hard shove mid lane and get a free chop in for himself. But he's level 6 to level 8.
And it's just this aggression again. Swift unlocked. Able to do a bit more around the early game. Xiaogu taking the standard lane, actually taking the lane swap.
Arrow
making
mid.
it work. Oh, going in! Godby! Barely gets out from under it.
That was so close.
That was very close.
The smallest amount keeps Godby alive, saving the ultimate, thankfully, but still having no flash available, so if that were to connect, he was a very dead Kassadin.
Doinby had everything. He was ready.
Oh, he was so ready.
This TVQ with PYL looking for a gank now into the mid lane. Going to go aggressive. Doinby in trouble. Puts down the gravity field. TVQ flashes in. But a sick flash from Doinby gets him to safety.
And that is one of the hardest things to dodge. When it comes to a Gragas engage, the flash body slam, it's entirely prediction and no reaction.
And the scary thing about it is if you go early, Gragas just doesn't flash because he flashes the end of his movement. So you have to know exactly when he's going to pull the trigger. Otherwise, it just doesn't come out. And we have a bit of a lane swap back.
Yep. People are going to move back now. Do you see Imp into the bottom side? He's got his items out, though. And TNT going for a bit of that early investment build.
Yeah, so that's why they swap back. As soon as you go Avarice Blade, you cede any control you have over a laning phase. Right now, even with Cleanse, Imp's stronger because you went 2 combat effective items and you're against, like, what, Banker?
Yeah, completely, unless you get a miracle crit.
Yeah, Accountant's not very good fighters.
Yeah.
Pastry time, so, you know, TNT going to struggle.
He's not that long-term loan at the moment. Looking to scale up in terms of his damage, but as you mentioned, the relative trading's pretty damn average. So the fact that it is average, it's interesting that Imp and PYL are respecting them in terms of their laning phase right now.
Still pushed up, and Swift's had a great early game. So don't want to go too aggressive.
No, got to respect the Rex side, that's for sure. But check in with Acorn. He's going to be very happy for the swap back. Forget about Imp having a fine time in the lane. Acorn finally getting some CS here. He's still behind V, but he's going to start playing catch-up. He's already closed the gap pretty significantly.
He definitely has. They know Swift's here, by the way. They pinged him multiple times. So the pathing that TBQ's taking immediately is not to go into his own jungle. He doesn't want to fight, but he knows that there's fighting.
They've gone in on the bottom lane.
Yeah, TNT's in trouble there as well. TCT's going to try and save him. Teleport coming down as well. That's going to be V joining in, but the portents are here for Acorn. V's in already. He's actually now caught out of position. Forced to use the wild growth. There's TNT. Gets taken out by Acorn. The ulti's back there from TBQ. Acorn scoops up the double, and Xiaogu have no answer.
That's dangerous territory to be in now for Xiaogu. 2 kills on Acorn, who was behind his lane opponent of V. Now well and truly ahead. Not only that, they're getting so much more from it than just the fight, unless Doinby can be a hero.
I just cannot believe that TNT went Avarice Blade. That has completely blown my mind. You back on...
He's trying to steal it. He's not going to get it. Doinby is, though. Swift going to get knocked back. He'll flush his way out. And Xiaogu steal Dragon #1.
So they grab the Dragon. That's fantastic news. So great job from Doinby and Swift there to be able to pick that up. But the fact that you go Avarice Blade when you have 1,500 gold, it's just, that's completely blown my mind.
You're set on that fact. I agree completely, and that's a big factor as to why this laning phase has suddenly turned back in the Cogmore's hands, even though he has a cleanse and shouldn't be winning the lane. But TNT and the rest of Xiaogu should have responded to the fact that he's gone for the Avarice Blade and not gone for the 2 versus 2 immediately
Yeah,
after.
defensively warded out. You could see that the ultimate was used. Have to see whether it's aggressive or not, because the cleanse was definitely blown by him. So that hit him. But there just wasn't the follow-up damage needed. And what's real, the other itemization that's perplexed me right now is the fact that Godby doesn't have any mana item. He's got cooldown reduction boots.
And an Amp Tome.
And an Amp Tome. So my thinking is maybe Sheen as his mana item. And get the W max in there second. Make sure that he's using the Lich Bane to reset his build. I have no idea.
No, he's going to max the Q and then follow it with the E because he's already maxing Q. So this is the Victor matchup. You have to max Q or you will lose the lane because he's a burst mage. The question you're raising, the Sheen's good. I think he'll leave it at Sheen potentially.
Yeah.
And then just go for some raw damage. Or he'll go all into the Athene's build and go super defensive from here. But from the looks of it, having the boots of lucidity, may just go Morello's. May just man up.
I mean, we've seen that, I think, from
It has been done, yeah.
It's like the kind of the snowball choice where you're like, you know what, I'm going to get my item eventually, let's take the cheap one, and then just try and find fights here, especially if he times it with his level 11. This work they can do here. But Xiaogu right now, all over the rest of the Rift. That swap happened, and they're straight back to the blue buff.
Yeah, Xiaogu, they're playing the bully right now, trying to make things happen. They've got the Ashe to be proactive with it, so very easy for them to work proactively. And the fact that Doinby is in such control of this middle lane, he has no mana items, Godby, we mentioned this, and while he's stuck under his turret, Swift's not letting him stay under his turret, he's in base.
I thought there was an arrow, that was a hawk shot though. Again, TNT getting that vision down, Godby's going to stay here, but that's going to be the tower going down. The first turret of the game is almost a solo mid lane effort by Doinby.
Stretching to call that lane a one-on-one, but that's been a whole team effort out of QG. Denial of 2 blue buffs, a couple of early ganks. There was a turret dive from a level 4 Rek'Sai in there as well, so a couple of target bans and a good overall strategy means QG definitely get the advantage.
Did the hard work. He did the lifting.
Doinby and friends managed to get the turret in that middle lane, but he's found himself with a big CS advantage. And
he's 2 levels up as well as V in the top lane. Gonna get aggressed on by Akon. Godby's gonna die as Doinby takes him out with his ultimate.
That's a one-on-one. Give you that one.
Thanks.
That was also a flash used by Godby on this Kassadin. He is having a nightmare of a game. And the fact that Doinby is doing this is why Xiaogu are contesting every single blue buff. They're going off as a team now. Because when Doinby is unlocked, Swift is ultra unlocked. He's a super mega unlocked man that just destroys the map.
Yeah, the danger though is that Imp has Trinity Force boots versus...
And what does Ashe have?
Yeah, an Avarice Blade. An Avarice Blade, mate.
And 280 items. He's got a dagger in there.
Yeah, but it's a Trinity Force. That's the big problem here. Is that
also looking for Krugs that Swift just took, so...
You know what's good, though? The fact that he did max the W is a lot more about wave control. He's doing his best Sivir impersonation.
Just shove it out.
So you just have longer range. Doesn't feel as bad.
And an arrow instead of an on the hunt. So, like, it's effective, it works, but you're now into a lane that you're sacrificing. You're, like, looking to lose your own lane to scale against a Cogmore.
Yeah, top lane. Also, bit of help there in the top has mean Akon got himself 2 kills despite being a bit down in CS. He's going to take the tower there as well. That means the gold lead's going to sit just 1k up there for Xiaogu. But Dragon up again in 140. QG stole the last one. But LGD hitting some good timings in the top and bottom lanes with the Fiora and the Cogmore.
Wow, Godby actually just sucks it up. He's going to have a 20-minute, if that. If he's really lucky and gets a team fight, he'll have a 20-minute roller. If not, it's going to be one of the later rollers.
You know what that says, though, is that the Amp Tome was just immediate power.
Yeah.
He just needed items. The second he went back to base, and, I mean, Doinby was getting items, but well, I need something to get me through this. And didn't get him through it, but it was the idea there.
Imagine how much worse it would have been.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I don't think Godby wants to think about that now. He's still struggling
about it.
in the 2-level deficit. But the tower does fall in bottom lane. LGD even that gold back up taking the tower lead 2-1. That's all.
And Imp's on the clock, man. 172 CS at 17 minutes. We were complimenting TNT's early game. He's 40 CS down again.
Just keeps happening.
Yeah, just built average.
Need to swap back maybe. Apparently standard lanes do not work out.
Said it earlier. Imp is a lifestyle choice.
He's a full commitment.
It doesn't matter how he does it. It's just by default 30 CS ahead every single time.
And now he's rotated into Doimby's lane. Maybe the one window they have because he hasn't got a blue buff, but he has a Thien. So yeah, no, you're not sieging down that tower.
Doimby's just holding the wave.
In fact, he's
like
freezing on him. That's gross. He's in a lane where he's down in terms of members against him, but he's confident enough to try and freeze it so that it stays just outside of the turret range.
Oh wow, does it again. They get their last hit. Finally drags it in as TCT comes to help. But they'll take this out. They'll prep for the Dragon because it's back up right now.
We were talking about CS leads.
60.
Yeah, we mentioned how the AD carries have got a CS lead for Imp. That's a big CS lead in that middle lane, and that's honestly going to be like a 25 to 30 minute Rod of Ages at this stage. And he can't buy the prerequisite items. He has to buy the whole thing.
Shagu going to move into LGD's red side jungle. Try and take some stuff out. TNT's almost there in the Infinity Edge. Couldn't quite get there, even with the Avarice Blade investment, but they will go onto this Dragon. They stole the first one, but they're going to easily take away the second one here. Doimby is just too threatening, and PYL pokes his head in, but doesn't go any further than that. Dragon number 2 will go to QG.
And this is the trade-off, right? Is that we question when LGD actually feel like they can fight because Godby is so far behind. He's now going to split push. They'll work around Imp actually having the big item strength.
3 members bottom. This is mean. The continued pressure on Godby right now. Looks like they will give up mid lane turret.
Godby, you better walk away. Doimby very aggressive there. Going to get the tower
going to
now
get
as well.
dove.
Oh, that's bad news. TNT.
Actually backs away there, PYL.
Still the blue buff though. Akon will get it. Takes away that CDR. Takes the pink ward out as well.
Backs off till further notice.
And Swift's going to take the other one. Imp's going to take this first tower here. That's why TNT was safe between 2 turrets. As they get the bottom side as well. And now actually the ulti out from Rex side. They're going to defend this tower successfully.
Yeah, the fact they get to defend that tower is Swift actually being a Rek'Sai, using that ultimate and getting there in time. The damage isn't going to be there from just Imp, but this is LGD trying to play around the map to their strengths, utilizing the Kog'Maw who has items, and trying to hide Godby, which is like the old school TBQ strategy, hide TBQ, and get the rest of the map going. So they can very easily implement that, but Xiaogu's response has been, go wherever Godby goes, and just make his life so very miserable that he's never going to get his Rod of Ages and feel happy about life.
Yeah, so the danger with the strategy is that means Imp has to overextend if he wants to trade and punish that, which he doesn't want to do right now because he recognizes that he's the threat. But then Doimby, you saw, he had the same moment where he was like, hang on a second, I'm in a tier 2 turret and there's not many other people here. So they will allow Doimby to freeze for now. It's what, Godby to freeze for now. It's what QG can get everywhere else. Can they siege up this top lane?
Well, coming in for the top lane now. Akon, I think, realizes there's a few too many people around. TNT does not pull the trigger on the arrow just yet.
Don't want to. They're riposte.
That was actually supremely unlucky right there. Akon was about to come out and put some hurt down onto V, but Braum revealed himself to place down a ward at the same second. So that was unfortunate, but the numbers advantage in that top lane does start to snowball some objectives.
And like Spong was saying, what can they get as far as trades go? Godby's sticking in the bottom lane. You know he's not pushing it anytime soon. Now starts shoving it back in. And they just go top, take a tower. QG, at least for now, are going to have control of this map. And that's been a rare thing in this series so far.
But what that means is because Godby's frozen the lane out, he's actually picked up every CS he possibly can. So now, we're looking at a 60 CS discrepancy in 2 different roles. This literally becomes Doimby versus Imp for the rest of the game. V and Akon, they're going to do their weird like repelling of split pushing with Lulu, which is super effective as the game wears on, especially if she gets 40% CDR. And Akon's not in any hurry to leave his lane because he recognizes that Doimby just kills him when he looks at him right now. So we'll have to see whether Imp is able to keep up with Doimby and lay down the hurt as this Kog'Maw.
Well, he's almost at 2 items now, but TNT catching up, moving in towards that static shift. QG looking to get aggressive on the top left-hand side of the map because Dragon is down.
Can they force Baron early. With the Ashe, at least if they secure vision control, they can maybe get some picks going with the arrow.
The key factor between these two teams, you said it's going to be Doinby taking on Imp, but TNT's got utility behind him. He's got that arrow to engage. He's still going to be useful. The question is, can Godby be useful at all? Or is he just going to be sitting duck and duck?
He's got the rod of ages. It's super late, though. I assume he just got it about 22 minutes in, but that is well behind your average timer.
Lots of time's going to be spent scaling from Godby. I would wager a lot of that is going to be spent split pushing as well. Acorn can very easily 1v1 anyone at the moment, and he's building more so for the Lulu.
Hex Drinker. Like, it's just such a good item against Doinby and Lulu. Burst Mage's Hex Drinker is really cost efficient at this stage of the game.
But then, if Godby is going to split push, he's going to be facing off against potentially Swift. And Swift can take him at the moment. No worries.
Yeah, that's not even close.
That's a Spirit Visage.
Swift's on 100 CS. He's doing a really good job of farming up those jungle camps. TBQ actually also farming really well.
Just hop out of the Baron pick because he doesn't want to get killed. And again, very quiet between Dragon Spawns. This seems to be the trademark of the Xiaogu games where it's a little more even. They're actually ahead by a few thousand gold too, to be a bit more precise. But they're still waiting on the Dragons. Again, what's the same story as game one? Get ahead, get control of some of the objectives, bait out the Baron, go safely to the Dragon, just play patient.
I think this comes down to Victor's next Palace. So I think they're waiting, they're biding their time. If they make a pick, then that is perfect for their playstyle. But if they get one more item completed onto Doinby, he's not far off, then they can just kill anyone they would like.
We've also got Rod of Ages charging for V. He's about a minute or two away. He's got Morel and Normicon now as well as Akon. He's going to dive in, but he gets stunned up by the gravity field. Chaos Storm is down. Damage is there. Huge Brawl multi as V's coming in as well. PYL's looking to be the first target, but Imp takes out TCT. They're still going to go. The double knock up there from Swift. Polymorph down. Imp's going to cleanse out, but it's a double up already. Imp's going to get sniped by Lulu, and Xiaogu win the team fight.
Acorn went super deep off the back of that, wanted to proc the ultimate, wasn't able to get it done. They're streaming towards Baron because Swift can just ultimate his way back in. Not looking good.
No, Acorn looking a little sheepish. QG will start it. The ultimate's down. That's an awful lot of bodies in the mid lane. That was what LGD ran into. And again, another team fight around the Baron, and Xiaogu launch ahead in this game.
LGD's version of a trade right now is going to be a blue buff, but this was on the back of Acorn with that over-aggression. He goes on to Doinby and attempts to negate the damage, but the damage was well and truly placed down afterwards. TNT even saving that arrow to hit members after they were on the retreat, so they don't even get the dragon for their troubles here.
So, to Acorn's credit, he takes every bit of damage they have and lives. But from there, it's just the fact that Imp gets polymorphed right here. It stops his damage for so long. And it means that the rest of the team just cannot keep up. Godby isn't strong enough. Double lasers, the Doodle Lance and the laser from Victor coming through, the Death Ray. They're going to grab Dragon number 3.
Same thing. Xiaogu, get the 5-man team fight, get the win. They'll take Dragon 3. They've already got Baron. And that gold lead's left up for them here. They're up 4,000, 4,500 gold ahead, but Doinby is on a rampage. Perfect hex score, Zonya's cooldown boot, and the Fiends all done at 26 minutes in. And he's almost level 16. This man is horrifying.
And they lose another 2 turrets. Wow.
It's blue side strength, man.
Yeah, every time. Their first pick Lulu on blue side. Just seems to make... It's funny, because the teams play the pick very differently. But it just seems to work out.
Yeah, the adaptation between the teams is the fact that they can make it work in different styles. Is him showing that he is not afraid of anything.
He's again 80 CS ahead. He's trying to make it happen, but the front line is there this time. Lulu's going to make anybody tanky, and Doinby's damage is ridiculous.
And this is always going to come back to the front line of Xiaogu, is that if Imp can't kill them, then generally Xiaogu's having a fantastic time in these team fights where they excel at so very well. And right now, they're just looking to try and siege down bottom. They've got the sustain. Things are still working for them.
Yeah, they have to abandon it. One thing we always credit LGD for is their side wave control. Look at top lane right now. They were able to set that up with 3 members. They gave up 2 turrets to be able to do so, preserved the base by setting up a really nice push in the top lane.
QG do have some Baron buff left though, so there'll be maybe a time to still poke in and try and break the base. But Doinby, he'll take the blue buff. Xiaogu going to go back, spend some money, reset. and then look for their next point of attack here, because they know they have a lead here. They just have to snowball it a little bit further, break that base open, and really get themselves into a commanding position.
Yeah, that's the next step, is break the base. And that's where you can actually work around a broken base and start forcing LGD into positions they don't want to be. Very difficult to control side waves when there is one of the lanes missing part of your base. You can see the focus now is the free objectives.
And now the problem is they're splitting farm between Godby and Imp, and Imp really wants that last Whisper. Godby's like, if you do not give me farm, I'm useless.
And there's a 6th tower falling down as well. So in and amongst all the squabbling, LGD are going to lose their outers and all of their tier 2s. And now Shogu with a bit of Baron left, going to try and take out this tower.
But still, the side waves from LGD, they're nowhere near a point of contention here for both of these teams. So Xiaogu are committed to the top lane. And if they can't actually get something going in this top lane, then they're wasting a lot of time.
I wonder if they'll dive. Doinby certainly, if he sees a kill, he will go in for it. The poke is not bad. TNT doing a nice job there as well.
Problem is no flash on TNT, meaning he can't walk up and hit the turret.
Or B, or C. Very risky for them to consider diving, especially against this team of LGD. Having an Alistar, Gragas.
Yeah, risky hitting the turret. Like, PYL has his flash available. He can just flash on a carry right now. So you can see they're actually going when the wave isn't there and PYL backs off.
Smart stuff there from Xiaogu, but it's slow going here for these turrets. Baron dropped off pretty much as soon as they got here after breaking the tier 2. And the side waves again, not looking in their favor. QG are committed though. They know they have to break here. The longer LGD group like this, given the lead they have, it's likely better for Xiaogu.
I mean, the fact that they can poke away at it, it will go down eventually if LGD don't pull the trigger. And PYL is not tanky unless he uses that ultimate. So he's getting fairly low and needs to constantly go back to the base. And that gives them windows to actually poke down that turret.
Imp though getting his own poke back in. Does give LGD a window.
Imp walks out of the base.
He'll force them off. I'm telling you, man, Imp had 3 great games already, still massively ahead in CS. If there's anyone you can rely on to not be afraid, win, lose, or draw, Imp is there on the front lines.
It's officially 100 CS, however. 110 between Doinby and Godby.
It's a bit of gold. That's a lot of gold, actually. I'll take that back. That's ridiculous. Godby is a non-factor at the moment and is really struggling to get back into this game because
5,000 gold. Wow.
God.
Yeah, the farm that he's getting is contested with Imp at the moment. Imp's trying his best to carry, but if Godby is non-existent in this game, then it is entirely Imp's job to carry.
Swift is really far ahead of TBQ as well. About 2,000 gold up, and TNT's as close as it's been to even with Imp, I feel like most of the series. I mean, he got gifted kills in the Vayne game. He's done a decent job trying to keep up in CS and getting global gold. Again, it's a strong game here for QG, but they're chilling. They know they've got 5 dragons on the way. Dragon 4 is going to be up in a minute 10. No need to rush here against LGD.
So one thing that they got just then for LGD is the last Whisper on him. So all of a sudden, Swift isn't as imposing as he otherwise was in that turret siege. So maybe Imp positions like an absolute genius and wins this team fight, but who else can actually take it? They need to, you feel that if they get an assassination on TNT or Doinby, and then use the Fiora ultimate to reset a fight really well, they might have the setup to be able to sit there and wail on the carries. Otherwise, it's just not going to be a good news story. And the danger is that Doinby looks at someone, they die. So
now they have got that last Whisper, their damage is well and truly there, and the adaptation out of Acorn now is a Guardian Angel.
Yeah.
So he's going to try and be that front line.
He's suiciding for it.
Yeah, he's now going to be Suicide Fiora, trying to actually kill people whilst not dying for as long as possible. And if he can get that ultimate down, then yeah, LGD well and truly can take a fight. It's just going to be really difficult to do so. But if you look at who they're against, low mobility champion like Ashe is mostly about using slows to kite and keeping at max range.
Yep.
And Victor, who has a speed boost on his Q, has the flash now because they all have their flashes available again. But other than that, I mean, they're entirely killable.
A huge purchase for V. He went back and got a Rabadon's Death Cap as his next item, and he's got his port as he whimsies his way down the mid lane. LGD know the Dragon's up. They're going to take a bit of the power play here, 5v4. They're not gonna get too much out of this one. Not even gonna get the tower. Imp actually forced to cleanse out, but Swift gonna dive his way in. I think he got polyed. Akon gets the kill there. Ultimate's gonna knock them away. PYL though is gonna go down, and now it's 4v4. Damage is there. Doimby's disgusting right now, and he's gonna flash forward. He wants him. He's gonna go in for Akon again. V flashes forward. Akon's gonna try and get up, but he gets stunned away. Victor's gonna grab the double, and that's a 4-1 win for Xiaogu.
Victor is trigger happy with his Zonias, but all things considered, Xiaogu just convincingly win that fight. We mentioned the Fiora passive that went off, but it was so far out of the way that there wasn't actually a way for it to be utilized in an offensive manner to reset the fight.
Yeah, they shouldn't have re-engaged. They should have taken the 1-for-1, backed away, fought another day. Instead, they commit afterwards. Definitely agreed that it wasn't the opportune area for it. You know, TBQ was dead anyway. Instead, they overcommit afterwards. They're going to lose Baron, and they lost their inhib.
Yeah, still 10 seconds left on Imp and Akon. Akon does have his teleport. Could potentially risky Baron, but PG are pretty healthy. Can give up the dragon if they absolutely have to, but they are going to try and take Baron. And Godby, who's still looking to build up items, does have a Zonias, but this Baron's dying way too fast.
Yeah, it's gone.
Godby's like a wet noodle.
He's a bit. Oh, Doimby. So much damage. Godby Riff walks away. QG going to try and get a kill, or just a dragon, or possibly both. Godby has to keep running. Swift is not stopping. He's going to keep chasing in with the Rek'Sai. Good slow.
There's a point where you do have to stop. It's when you want to go towards the dragon and actually take the objective, but they get a free Baron for their troubles on the back of a one-team fight that was just entirely destroying people that are the tanks, or meant to be the tanks of LGD. They just go down too quickly. They know the Godby's not going to be doing as much damage as Doimby, so if they take out the front lines, the rest of the fight is a piece of cake.
Yep.
From there, Baron, Dragon, Xiaogu, they've moved from strength to strength. Once it hits about the 30-minute mark, they look unbeatable.
Certainly do. And let's just take stock of how far ahead this team are. 12,000 gold up. Doimby is full build. 7-2 in turret, 4 dragons, and now a Baron buff as well.
Yeah, Doimby's full build. Godby's half build. And he's got twice as much gold.
Yeah, he was 5k ahead last week's check, so that's really, really gross to consider. Full build, 34 minutes opposed to nothing at all. And he's even on time with the clock in terms of farm.
Ooh, Akon trying to do some damage. TNT's like, hey, get off my jungler. You can see again, got the tanky front lines. Even Brom's relatively massive here.
That's good though from TCT. He's sitting on the flank, preventing them from looking at defending the turret because he's got the threat of his own ultimate there. Second inhibitor is just too easy for them, really.
LGD just can't fight right now. I don't know what's left in this game. They can try and find the miracle fight. Imp does decent damage, but Doimby has taken over this game. You can kind of see where they might have targeted Godby in some of these ban phases. Maybe that's where they think they can really stick it to LGD as PYL. He gets arrowed, forced to ulti out. Swift dives in to try and get the kill, but QG are going to go top lane.
This is the zoning factor again, though, is this third inhibitor is not long for this world because LGD just cannot fight. If Doimby sees you, if he looks at you, you're done.
And they're going to fight. Imp's got caught. They take him out instantly. As the first kill goes over to Doimby, they'll lock one up. TBQ gets stunned as Godby pops his Zonias. He's going to try and make something work out of it all, but the GA's been popped. Akon's going to look to go down here. They'll chase him away. They've gotten 4 kills already, and that's going to be game. QG run over LGD, winning game number 3.
Slow and steady wins the race here for Xiaogu. They actually don't lose their laning phase. They have a lane swap put into effect, and it just feels infinitely better for them. They almost feel more refined in lane swap.
That game was all Swift. The turret dive, the controlling of the blue buff, repetitively dragging people out of lane. LGD just let it happen. You know, they had the Cassin and they didn't want to challenge for anything like that. All of a sudden, because there's this big looming threat of we have to respond to a 5v, like a 5-man move into our jungle, just means that they're not able to get it going. You can see Godby, after that performance, he has to look for some answers because he likes the matchup. We've talked about it a lot. This seems to be the counter pick, maybe a pseudo counter pick now because it didn't work out. But if he's not able to run Cassin into Victor, you think that they have to get rid of the Victor.
And you think the Rek'Sai is bad. Should see what happens when he plays Nidalee.
Yeah, or Elise apparently.
Yeah, exactly though. Like he has the early pressure there now is the important factor to take from that. He's not playing counter gank, he was playing offensively in your face. Take your jungle. And it was a 1v1 in the mid lane that Godby likes, but it wasn't a 1v1 at all, because not only does Godby have to leave the lane to help his jungler, he can't, because their jungler is killing him.
And once again, that's with the bottom lane really being controlled by Imp. Like, Imp was in complete control of that game, but his mid laner just fell way too far behind. And as you said, there's always going to be the utility and the sieging pressure out of an Ashe.
Yeah.
Just like if you're a Victor and you fall behind, you always have wave clear. You can always just spam out that ability. As you see some Swift signs there, definitely well-deserved right now. But Godby, when he fell behind, he had nothing.
He didn't. It's a good time for a Swift sign, though, that's for sure, as QG go up to match point now in the series. 2-1 in 3 games up over LGD. Didn't expect them to win game 1, let alone game 3 after dropping the second. LGD, again, coming into the favorites. Not heavy favorites, you have to think, but certainly favorites given their recent form. Xiaogu trying to show them that, hey, not only is the record against you quite good, we're looking to improve it, but a win against IG was not a fluke.
I think LGD, the side that are already going to Worlds, they're a side that's looking really strong, but Xiaogu, the rookies, they've actually given it to them in this best of 5 series to even be a game up. There's a lot of very obvious things that we can talk about, such as the Lulu being there, the blue side first pick, but they're executing it to a world-class level.
And you know, as V's Lulu was fine, but he wasn't exactly winning the lane against Akon.
Yep.
Akon teleported early, got a double kill even, was going back into the top lane to kill him before 2 pesky people showed up in the lane. That game was all about the control they exerted over the map, and we talk about their team fight, and we talk about the fact that they're able to group very well, play around objectives, but early control in like expeditions into the jungle, pushing into mid laners, is not something that we normally credit to QG, and that's exactly how they won the first 15 minutes.
As almost always, it's on the back of Doinby and Swift, so let's hear a little bit more from that game as we go out this time to Atlas and Frosker.
Thank you very much, Space for Time. I am, in fact, not Sada this time, so that's handy. Of course, it is, in fact, me. I'm, of course, here with Frosker. And after that interesting game there, and, of course, Xiaogu seemed to have a thing for the blue side, and it's working quite well.
Yeah, so Xiaogu staying true to their history. Their blue side win rate seems to be the up and up, but that said, they have to play on the red side next game, so LGD could look to strike back.
Yeah, well, we might be going to 5 games as well if it does actually happen, which would be incredible for the LPL Grand Final. But we are going to go over that last game, and the Fiora didn't quite work out as well as it would have been planned, despite having a decent start after the horrible lane swap.
Yeah, so the reason why we grabbed this replay is because it was kind of the first big burst of action. Things had been very slow, very drawn-out pace, and this kind of looked like the initial proactive swing from LGD with Fiora's teleport. So we can go ahead and roll this one through. So what you haven't seen, or what we've missed, is TNT has already burned his escape summoners, both flash and heal. Here comes the teleport down from Acorn. He's going to quickly flash over, just punch Ashe in the face, delete her from the fight, and then picks up a double kill. And this looks like, okay, LGD, they're back in the driver's seat. They got the 2 kills on the Fiora. She's primed and ready to carry. But more importantly, it opens up this opportunity for them to head towards the Dragon Pit, which then looks like a major swing of gold for them, but it's stolen away by Doinby's Victor and Swift's Rek'Sai.
Yeah, not even necessarily swing of gold. It's all that 6% extra stats, the fact that they then have a basis to build off, despite the fact that QG could potentially win some fights in the future. So a little bit of a horrible start, well, finish to what was a decent fight there for LGD, but it just kept going downhill, and it was largely off the back of the Victor pick in the mid lane.
Yeah, so I really want to talk about Victor, especially on blue side. Now, Xiaogu, they do have a big priority for Victor. Doinby, it's a very popular pick, not just in the LPL, but internationally. But specifically on blue side, you have to think about Baron and how big of an area it is for LPL in terms of like a magnet. So just think about what Victor's incredibly good at. It's controlling choke points and using his AoE, I call it the Venn diagram of murder, to cover those choke points. And from red side, you have 2 entrances into Baron, which are both on ramps and choke points. So if you're doing Baron as a red side team, your options are either to flash over the back wall or to walk through one of those choke points. So Victor on blue side in particular is incredibly devastating. We do have a team fight that kind of shows a lot of that devastation.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And this is sort of when Acorn's trying to start something, gets a little bit of a flank off here, but you're shown exactly how potent the Victor is, especially in conjunction with the Lulu, because you can't delete someone if there's a wild growth, and that gravity field is just awful to deal with. So we'll play it out, and you can take us through how this one worked.
Now, this one isn't on a choke point, but it just speaks to the power of Victor and how far ahead Doinby is. So Acorn was looking for a flash here. Doinby reposition himself, gets the wild growth, and just lays down that Venn diagram of murder. But also a really good job that the casters pointed out at the time of this fight was the fact that TNT here held on to his ultimate, that enchanted crystal arrow, and made sure that he used it as a chasing maneuver as opposed to kind of a counter reflex of please don't engage on me.
Yeah, it just didn't quite work out. And look, we'll see whether they do go for another Fiora pick here on the side of LGD, but it seems to be the Lulu that's really carrying all of these games through. There's some sort of common themes that are starting to occur in this particular series.
Yeah, so we did have another priority first pick of the Lulu, and I made a joking comment that this is kind of the love story of Lulu and Kog'Maw. And so what you'll see in draft phase, and it's always just very tell, is you'll see either a Lulu or a Kog'Maw first pick. Typically, it's a Lulu just because she has more versatility, more flex between her. We've seen both Acorn and V now play her in the top lane, not in this series, but just over their competitive history in the LPL. And anytime you see a Lulu, it pretty much guarantees that the enemy team is going to have to rotate that Kog'Maw. We've seen LGD get both Lulu and Kog'Maw once this series, and that's the game that they already won. It's just way too devastating and powerful to give away. So the Lulu pick is just doing wonders right now, especially in controlling and making the draft very predictable.
Yeah, and the fact that QG show that they can be so flexible with it. We've seen Acorn play the Lulu before, but V still just as potent, able to get things done. He was laning against the Fiora, which could have been potentially difficult. We made some notes about the fact that she's not entirely interactive and he may have been able to have his way with that lane, but didn't happen this time.
I'm actually really glad that you brought up the Fiora and the fact that we saw Lulu again. So Lulu has been on the rise just because hyper carries have been on the rise. So naturally, when a Kog'Maw, when a Vayne are coming back into circulation of the meta, Lulu's going to go alongside with them because she works so well in tandem, empowering them, protecting them, everything like that. And she works really well in tandem against assassins. So Fiora's not truly an assassin, but she's going to do a very similar thing. She's going to stick to your backline. She's going to blow up your AD carry. So having a Lulu, especially that early in the draft, instilled the confidence that Acorn was going to take the Fiora into it, a little bit questionable.
Yeah, well, we do actually have another replay coming up here as well, and this is about the ideal situation for LGD. They managed to pick off a target, but just look at how wrong everything goes afterwards.
I mean, the thing that you also have to really pay attention to is just the gold difference right now. So 52K to 44K, especially in this Victor 3-0-3. Doinby is massive, and he's the main breadwinner of the Xiaogu team fight. And again, it just goes back to what everything that Victor is so good at. He's going to have a mid-game power spike, especially with the itemization that we had a very early upgraded Hex Core. He's going to have incredible CC and a lot of AoE damage. So we can go ahead and roll this clip through. Now, the arrow hits Imp, forces him to burn his cleanse and try to reposition defensively. The Fiora ultimate does go down, but it's not in a good area for LG. They're not fighting on that Fiora ultimate, so it really doesn't mean anything for them in terms of their regeneration. And then from here, it's just the chase story. I believe Doinby popped his hourglass because he assumed that people were going to turn and try to burst him down. I'm going to give him to that one.
I like to think that he thought he had a DFG. That's what I like
Death
to
Firegrass.
think. Yeah.
But
that's what I see.
Just the ridiculous damage that Victor is able to output. And again, just how powerful that pick is, not just in the LPL, but internationally. An initial mid-game power spike. He wave clears really well. He offers tons of CC, tons of area of control, and he just hyper scales into late game with his damage.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that he can be a sole tower defender as well, because a minion wave cannot handle a Victor standing there at all. So you can split with as many people as you want, and someone will say, okay, we'll capitalize on this lack of people in the mid lane. No, Victor's there. It doesn't even matter.
And you have to think, because his itemization is so cost efficient because of the Hex Core. So at levels, his initial back, he's going to level it up. Probably levels 8 through 10, because it gives you plus AP based on your level. Yeah. He can just back clear the wave for free, especially if he burns his evolution point into augmenting his laser for the...
Yeah, of course. That particular augmentation is one of my personal favorites. Yeah, that's exactly right. So augmenting the death ray there, of course. But we do have the final replay, and this is going to be another demonstration of ridiculous Victor damage, but mostly a demonstration of the fact that Xiaogu are, in fact, 12K ahead.
I feel like Vanna Whiting this. Yeah, so like you said, that's 61K to 49K. It's 10-4. LGD are not having a good time. And again, 5-0-5 on Doinby Victor. He is massive. We can go ahead and roll this one through. Yeah, there goes Imp. Blaze the Chaos Storm, he doesn't even have to hit anything with this. It's literally just standing in place.
He may as well have just done another celebratory Zhonya's, I think. As Acorn runs away.
Is that what we're going to call it? The celebratory Zhonya's?
Zoning Zhonya's? Are we going to call it that?
Oh,
that is, in fact, the point where the surrender came through. But Xiaogu, another fantastic victory, much like Game 1. But we'll see whether it is the blue side and whether LGD can bounce back in the next game.
Yeah, completely agree. And it goes back to, again, we talked about Victor, we talked about Lulu. Lulu's been the big priority pick, coming out very early in both of these rotations. And, you know, I don't necessarily credit her as the primary damage dealer right there, but again, it just makes the draft phase that much more predictable. You understand where it's going. You understand the enemy team is forced to pick up that Kog'Maw because they can't afford to disrespect it and give you both Lulu and Kog'Maw.
Well, there's the fact as well that Imp has played Kog'Maw every single game. Is it possibly to do with Kog'Maw working in conjunction with Lulu so well, but maybe not so much without her?
That's an interesting topic. I thought you were leading me into, again, another Victor point. So I really like control mages and hyper carries in general, especially Kog'Maw and Vayne, just because, again, Victor and control mages are going to have that initial mid-game power spike because of their easy itemization, Victor through his Hex Core, and then as he scales and he offers a lot of CC, Kog'Maw does effectively the same thing. And it's weird to think about a hyper carry having a mid-game power spike, but the initial itemization of the Trinity Force is going to be his big first power spike, and then he's just going to get stronger and stronger. So the ramp time on Kog'Maw and Victor go up very similar.
Yeah, no, that makes a whole lot of sense. Well, we'll see whether the Kog'Maw is going to be picked once again by Imp, but we are going to throw it back onto the caster desk with